to NFTV. I hope you're doing all well. Today, we've got something to show you a little bit. Thanks to the lads at Sport of Business, they have given us permission to play some of the audio clips that Jamie Reuben done a podcast with him. It's a very, very good insight, so stick around. We are live on YouTube. We are live also on Twitch as well. So we've got a few to rattle through as well. So welcome, everybody. Please get your comments in. We'll read some of them out as we go along as well. So it's an interesting insight into how the board basically get on with transfers, PIF, how a transfer happens, Eddie Howe. Jamie's obviously mentioned the fans as well. And obviously the title of the video as well, which we'll come on to as well, that we don't have as much financial power as Chelsea. So we've got a few clips. So please jump along as well. As you see, we've got the new interactive bar at the bottom. As you can see, obviously a membership there for 99 pence, which is fantastic as well. And if you could drop us a like on the video, that would be wonderful. It's just me today on my own. We do have Sam making a video himself later on tonight as well. But I hope you're all doing well. L. Stapleton, afternoon to you. I hope you're doing well. And yes, Andy Bell, fantastic to see that he has now been a member of 28 months. Thank you very much, Andy. Thank you for that as well. And obviously, Andy's gone on to say also that there's a possible to have another 30% fee on top of add-ons to me as well. But I hope you're all doing well. I hope you're all fine. So get the ball rolling. Pardon the pun, and please let me know how you feel about that. And look at that! Look at this. I've been playing around with the system, everybody. So so. Obviously, this is our new system, EView Max as well. But this is Jamie Reuben on buying Newcastle United.
There's a couple of years in between, but Amanda and her husband never let it go. They had amazing tenacity in this deal. Something they always wanted. It's something actually on a personal level, because we're friends first, something we always discussed. But a time went and they worked tirelessly with PIF behind the scenes to get a structure together. And then they approached me and I thought it was a great opportunity. I thought I could add value. And so it's something we wanted to do.
300 million is like the price tag. How's that structured? Who puts up the cash? PIF, Amanda, you?
As a consortium, we're investors and we all put up money.
So you all put money into a fund and then the fund buys it?
Yes, yeah. SPV, exactly.
And what does that process look like? You said, hey, is there a bidding process?
So it wasn't really much of a public auction. I think Amanda, who led this, sort of gained former owners' trust, and the deal was worked out privately with them and also with the Public Investment Fund. So it was mostly done between them, but it wasn't like an auction in the sense that Chelsea, Manchester United, Rain weren't hired to go market at a club like they are now. So it was done in a more private manner. Comes in investment in not just players, but into possible one-day stadium expansion, a new training ground, women's football team, academy. All of these things at the moment require a big upfront investment as well. So at 300, it seems like a relatively good price in the comps today. There's also other investment we've got to count in as well. But we're happy with where we are. We think we've got a good chance.
Yeah, so Jamie Reuben obviously says that they're happy where they are in terms of the ownership and that. And obviously he's mentioned just how it worked with the ownership. And there's a link in the description if you want to listen to all of the podcasts as well. So please have a look at that after that. And Amanda Staveley and obviously me and Dad have been pushing for a long, long time, and they've asked Jamie, obviously they know Jamie Reuben really well, to come along and put the money in effectively and join us as we try and take over Newcastle United. And obviously he's talked about the financial fair play, which we will come on a little bit more. He's talked about certain things like developing the stadium, the training ground, and obviously the women's, which we've pushed massively on this channel the past season, is that doesn't affect financial fair play, but it does obviously have to put money in. And obviously we're talking about the Sports Direct signs coming down as well. That was more money, and obviously transfers and so on and so on. See if you are interact on what you've actually said. DC says, who would be your number one transfer target this summer? It's an interesting one, because you look at the 11. I think we need someone creative, personally, for me, because I think if we lose Bruno, yes, Joe Linton's chipped in with a few goals, but I think if we lose Bruno, that creativity for me. But also on the flip side, if you sign another defensive midfielder, you can allow Bruno to go forward more. So I think centre midfield is probably one. Striker, I think we still need another winger. We need a left back, I feel, because I think Dan Burn could be moved across to centre back as well. Ian goes on to say, nice fancy new system. Lee, mate, looks much better than StreamYard. It is, pal. It's much better. We can change things around. Obviously, even I'm still a novice to this as well, but it's just so much more we can do. We can put links on screen and all that, which I haven't got into yet. But yeah, it is 100% much better. We're going to move on to what Jamie Reuben has said about the fans. So I've changed the graphic around there for you. And listen to this.
When I was following football as a kid, I'm sure you guys were as well, the way you would get involved in a club is to look at teletext on the score, collect a sticker.
Yeah.
That whole thing's gone out the window now. With social media, fans want to be totally immersed in the day-to-day decisions of the club and who's running them. And ultimately, as a board, we're the ultimate responsibility and the strategic focus going forward. So they want to understand what the owners are about. The first thing they want to understand is, why do you own this football club? Do you love this football club? Do you understand that it's not really yours? It's really ours. We're letting you own it for now, but this club ultimately belongs to the city, the community, and the fans of Newcastle. We're just custodians. We definitely got that, and we definitely respect that. And number two, they want to understand what your vision is, especially with the cost of living and everything today. The fans give up a great deal of time and money to come support their team. Newcastle, for example, every away game is like going to an international. You're so far, we don't have too many neighbouring Premier League teams. So they have to cross the country mostly every week. And that's a big ask. So in return, they want to know that you're out to deliver success in the future and that you love and care about this club. And the thing as owners, we have to respect that and communicate that. I think it's important to keep open lines of communication with the fans as owners. I don't know, I say this with a camera crew right here. I don't know if you have to live a reality television lifestyle. I think it can be measured. But I do think you have to keep lines open to communication, not only in the good times, bad times as well. And so roles of owners have changed, and the profiles have definitely changed as well as football has evolved into not just a local, regional sport with what's happening with Wrexham and Ryan. These are big franchises. Premier League's a big name around the world. Twitter is definitely a good way of communicating. Social media is becoming increasingly important. Also, as a club, you want to elevate status on social media. That means more people watching, more people knowing about you. That can lead to increased revenue. So it's an important way of communicating, but it's also an important way of building your brand as well and taking that international. There are definitely other ways of communicating. We went on a trip to Saudi Arabia. We met the fans. You do these fans forums. So it's important to do something publicly and also smaller things as well, where you can probably understand more about concerns from the fans and things like that. I think both are important to do. Newcastle had an amazing sort of local fan base. It seemed to be always everybody's second team. But internationally, maybe not as well recognised as the Liverpools, the Manchester Uniteds, the Chelseas. And so we have a big chance, and it's a big aspiration of ours to build our brand globally and attract more fans from around the world. That's why we're doing a tour of America in July. It's why we've done a couple of tours of the Middle East. So we see a big opportunity in expanding our global fan base.
So that was, of course, Jamie Reuben just mentioning a couple of things that he's talked about there. Obviously, he's mentioned the profiles of the other clubs. Obviously, you would call them probably elite clubs, would you call them there? Like your Man United, Liverpool's, Chelsea's, having a bigger global fan audience. And obviously, Newcastle are heavily targeted Saudi Arabia. Obviously, they've been out there twice. The second time around, fans were allowed to go and watch a game, which is brilliant, which we took the channel across. And obviously, he's mentioned the USA, which we're going across in 7 weeks' time, me and Steve. So you can see why they're trying to move around and catch new audience. And obviously, Newcastle now also being in the Champions League, revenue is going to come in because more people are going to be interested in Newcastle United naturally. And obviously Saudi Arabia in particular is a very, very young country. So they're not daft, they're targeting certain countries and tours for a reason. And obviously Newcastle is well known. It's, as we all know, in Newcastle, it is literally all football, it is. But they wanted to go further out and further and try and attract other fans from, Africa to South America to North America and wherever, Asia. And he's obviously talked about, the possibility of that wouldn't be against going out to Brazil for a week or two for Bruno and Joe Litney. That's mentioned that in the podcast. Please listen to it afterwards as well. But yeah, interesting, isn't it? And obviously they interact with us on Twitter, and it's brilliant because I'm buzzing that both of them follow us, Mia, Dad, and Jamie on NFTV on Twitter, which is incredible. And I would never think ever doing all this sort of stuff. And that's just my own personal story that the owners of Newcastle follow us. Mental. And they interact with normal fans. They interact with like other YouTubers. They interact with, your average Joe. They're absolutely brilliant on Twitter. Yes, it's all going well at the moment, and that'll be interesting to see, which Jamie's touched upon there, is when things aren't going well, maybe we'll have a run of form, or, expectations are going to rise, and if we can't hit those expectations, how will they still interact with them? I'm sure they will, but it'll be interesting to see how they do communicate with fans. And it's a breath of fresh air, because with Alna, like under Mike Ashley, it was an absolute shit show. Let's be honest. The communication, it was left to literally a 2-paragraph statement once a year. That's all it was. Lewis has gone out to say it's mad to think that we're in the Champions League as well. Glenn's gone to say, which side of the wing do you think we need more, left or right? For me personally, I would like to see someone who's versatile, who can probably play both. If you look at our wingers, a lot of them can play on either side, yes, but Gordon's probably weaker on the right. Miggy's probably weaker on the left because he's form. Saint-Maximin's probably weaker on the right. So, but they both can play there, if that makes sense. But I'm fine with anything for that as well. Ian's going on to say Jamie is a top lad, and we'll get Mel's better at football than Miadad as well. Obviously, he's referring to the halftime challenge as well. But look, it's positive that they're talking and they're going on. This is the second time that Jamie's gone on to a podcast, and we've pulled Miadad on the women's game. Let's have a quick chat, and he did, very brief. It's only 20 seconds, but still. Because we caught him at the wrong time because they were taking the photo as well. But it's good, and obviously we've seen with the PIF and everything at the minute that the controversy around the golf at the minute, where they've merged as one, and Yasser Al Rumayyan's chairman of Newcastle, he's the most powerful man in golf now, isn't he? And then obviously we've seen it with the Saudi clubs, that PIF own 4 of the Saudi clubs as well, and all the jokes going around saying, we're going to loan Lionel Messi, but looks like he's off to Inter Miami. Or Kante or Ronaldo or whatever. But I don't think that really happened. I wouldn't mind taking Benzema, mind. But it's not a shock to me, because if you look at the Man City model, I've gone off a tangent here, haven't I? If you look at Manchester City model, they've bought loads of clubs, the City Group, and obviously we are looking at, I think we were rumoured of Dijon in France, one of the Belgian clubs, which has just been relegated as well. So it won't be too surprising that you've got the umbrella just filtering down, where Newcastle might actually go and buy and own a club themselves rather than the PIF as well, because that's been talked about too. Obviously, Ultimate PIF will, of course, own that as well. Now, the interesting bit was the lad asked them, and he asked them around about, if the pressure from the fans come in, and because there was pressure when Steve Bruce was at the helm, the ownership came in, and how they would deal with that. And of course, he mentions Eddie Howe in this clip as well. But this one's quite interesting.
When we took over the club, that the fan base and the incumbent manager didn't get on particularly well, and I think definitely we all agreed it was a good move to make a change quite early on. And we ran quite a detailed process. We appointed Graham Jones, our caretaker manager, so it gave us a bit of room. Even though we were under pressure, we wanted to make the right decision. And we interviewed very high caliber managers, and we came close to appointing very high caliber managers. I think what stood out from Eddie Howe's interview, which captivated the entire board, was just how well prepared he was for that interview.
So the board sit in the boardroom, and then they come and present their plans. How does that actually work?
Yeah,
they literally
exactly like that. Yeah, it can be on Zoom or it can be on, and we have a friendly chat, and then we ask questions. They give an opening, talk about what they see as the vision of the club, what's the immediate concerns they need to address, and then they go on to a longer term. And what I remember, he talked specifically, where everybody else was talking more generally. And for where we were in the league, it really resonated with us. He would use players' names that we have, not just a centre-back. He would use the specific name, or a central midfielder. And he was so well rehearsed, and he came with such level of knowledge and so prepared, we all immediately felt very comfortable with him. And obviously, he's been a tremendous hire for us. He's just a great person and a great coach. I'm happy we got that decision. We make the decision as a board and we discuss it openly. We've only ever had unanimous board decisions passed. So clearly we're like-minded as a board, from the chairman to me to Amanda, Murdad. So I think we definitely are a like-minded board. We all thought he interviewed fantastically well and was the right man for the job. We're very happy we got him.
I think we're all very, very happy that we've got Eddie Howe as manager. It was interesting what you said about obviously Steve Bruce. Hi, Davey. It was interesting what he said about Steve Bruce, because obviously when they came in, they knew that the change was right because the manager wasn't getting on with the fans. Fans didn't like him. But that was clear obvious, wasn't it? The hostility and the toxicity of Steve Bruce football was just not going down well. at all. And the results, obviously, I think was it 8 games when they made the change, and obviously was approaching 1,000 games, and there was that speculation, would he see his 1,000 game against Spurs and so on. But yeah, and then interestingly, the interviewing process with Eddie Howe there, Jamie's mentioned that we all know before we get into that is that Unai Emery was approached first. We know that. He's doing fantastic things at Aston Villa as well, and you never know. But on the flip side, would that change Unai Emery for Eddie Howe going back 18 months? Nah, because look at the job Eddie Howe's done. It's phenomenal, man. Absolutely incredible. Unai Emery bottled it, as far as I'm concerned. Bottled it, being 19th. Didn't know that he had the ability to get out of 19th position and climb the table. Eddie Howe obviously came in, as Jamie said there, rehearsed and so on. That doesn't surprise me one bit with Eddie Howe. It doesn't surprise me because he'll come in with obviously, if you've seen the podcast with Jake Humphries, he went on and it was over Zoom and things like that, and he blew them away mentioning certain things like players and positions. That doesn't surprise me with Eddie Howe because he eats, sleeps and breathes football. He gets up and goes to work at 6 o'clock and he's there for 12 hours and then he sees his family later on at night. That's his life. He loves it. He breathes it. And he's always wanted a football club in an actual football city. There's not many. There's only 3 in the UK for me. That's Newcastle, Liverpool and Glasgow. That's it. Who are absolutely obsessed with football. But yeah, it was very interesting how they take it, because you could imagine anyhow, if they're asking questions, he's already done his research because he wants this job, and it's a fucking fantastic job for Newcastle United, even though we were sitting in 19th place. Very, very interesting. It was really, really interesting to see what they said on that as well. We're going to hear about, now this has been talked about a lot, which is of course is financial fair play.
It's a correlation of what your goals and ambitions are. So if you want to elevate the team, we've seen transfer prices keep going up. So it costs money to bring in players. And it seems like that will continue to go up. There might be blips. That seems to be on an upward track. And then look, in order to meet financial fair play, which we're adamant we're going to do, we're going to play by the rules, and we're long-term investors. But you need to invest in your stadium. You need to invest in your infrastructure. You need to invest in other non-footballing parts of your business to get the commercial revenue up, in order to financially invest on the pitch and elevate your status. So basically, it's on a revenue basis. So the basic idea, without getting too technicals, so the amount you can spend is linked to your revenue. So it doesn't mean a club without the revenue, without the success, can just come in and blow away a league. Yeah. And the idea is to grow the business side and the non-football side as well. And like things, investment into women's football, into academies, those don't count towards your FFP. So it's heavily incentivized to invest in the infrastructure of your football team.
Yeah, I totally agree on that, because you look at the changes now with women's football as well. It's massively changed, and obviously the girls have got promoted in dramatic circumstances down in Barnsley. So the money being put in the women's doesn't affect your financial fair play. So you could effectively, I'm not saying you can buy the league, because that's not what happened to Newcastle. But I do expect the women's side to go on and get a high caliber player this campaign, this summer. And then what else was there? There was also obviously financial into the training ground. We know the training ground had a massive improvement. And obviously the academy has as well. So that's had improvement. That doesn't affect financial fair play, but of course money's does as well. Ian's mentioned he's seen us walk past you in Tesco's at the Metro Centre a while ago. Didn't say hello, but I thought you think I was not. Ian, just say hello. Just say hello. I'll talk football with you for 5 minutes. And Ian's gone on to say also as well, how good is it to be owned by people who actually know how to communicate effectively now? Oh, just a breath of fresh air, isn't it? Just to make. Do you know what I like about Jamie and Miadad is the lad banter, because I think that's important as well. That for them it's work, yes, and they've got a duty of care for obviously the community of the fans, but it's in any job. If you have a bit of banter, it'll go a long way. I have it at work. I'll get the piss took out of me. I'll take the piss out of other people. It's banter. It helps. It's camaraderie. It's morale and so on. Lewis goes on to say, this one's taking a little while to load up. I've just remembered because Newcastle have qualified for the Champions League. Our youth team qualified for the UEFA Youth League. Great point, Lewis. Fantastic point. I mentioned this to the lads in our WhatsApp group, is that Newcastle will compete in the Youth League next season. So it's a carbon copy. So whoever Newcastle get in the group stages, I think it's under 19 level. I might be wrong on that. It might be under 20. But it's basically whatever the first team group draw is, the youth team get the same as well. So it'd be fantastic for our talent because I think that'll help massively, because we know that, the youth development has been massively lacking the last 15 years. And it's good to see that Elliot Anderson's breaking through. Lewis Smiley could be the next one. So it'd be fantastic to see. Lewis has gone to say it's the under 18s as well. But yeah, financial fair play is mentioned quite a bit. And of course, the next bit is about spending money. Can we go and spend crazy money?
It's a balance. I think, first of all, it just shows the importance of bringing your own players through. That's the only viable way of running a football club, is to have a good group of young players coming into your team. But in terms of FIFA play, yeah, we have to be smart, you have to be shrewd, and you have to be opportunistic. You have to be ready to pull the trigger quickly. You have to know what you want, and you have to be strategic. And a lot of thought gets into who to approach, why they're approaching them, what are the best chances of success. What you don't want to do is make a ton of blanket offers, and you've got to be quite controlled, disciplined. Yeah. But it's definitely challenging, especially with some of the other clubs. You've seen the sort of amounts they've spent. Financial fair play means we can't do that just yet. And so we have to make sure our pound really has to go further than a Manchester City, a Chelsea, or a Liverpool. Last year, we were fighting relegation. This year, we're pushing towards a Champions League space. Next year, I wouldn't be totally surprised to see Chelsea pushing on. And so it can change very quickly. But definitely, they spend a lot of money, and those sort of sums would be difficult for us. The base salary is 90% of the salary, so what is reported is usually what it is. There are appearance fees, there are goal fees, there are assist fees. The agents do a very good job at putting some add-ons. So yeah, but the number is mostly that.
Interesting, that, isn't it? He's gone on to say that 90% of players' salary is what it is, normally what you see, and then there's a couple of add-ons. And agents have obviously mentioned there that I think he's being polite, let's be honest. I think he's just saying about the agents there, they'll try and haggle a little bit more. Of course, that's for their client. Interesting about the transfers. Of course, the financial fair play is that it was a key thing what he said there. If you've heard it, it's the title of the video. We can't compete because of financial fair play yet. We can't compete with the likes of Chelsea and Liverpool, even though Jurgen Klopp twists every summer that we've got billions and billions of pounds, despite him buying out a striker almost every transfer window, summer window for a large fee. But we can't yet because of financial fair play. You look at Manchester City, they're going to get done. And not just the first time, this is the second or third time now that Man City are going to get done. And they've got, 15 counts? The owners didn't want to go that way. And they're looking strategically, obviously, with the commercial deals. Obviously, we have kept Fun 88 on as a backup sponsor. What I mean by that, they're not going to be on the shirt. They're going to be the Asian betting sponsor. For me, I said this on Twitter. I got a bit of stick for it, but I would like to just literally get rid of Fun 88, completely move away from Mike Ashley era. I understand why if you keep them on, it's revenue. I do get that. So I get the two sides of the flip of the coin. But for me personally, I would rather get away from Mike Ashley totally with that. But, they've been very good, the Fun 88 on interacting. Obviously, we know that we're going to have a shirt sponsor as well. That's going to be dropping very, 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 very soon. And then, of course, that's more revenue for the club. And obviously, we're seeing it when we were out in Saudi Arabia. The channel was out, and obviously the club were out. There's loads of these little commercial flights, fly with Saudi. There was all these little strategic and gaming, all these little deals that were happening. I think more and more will happen with Newcastle, and obviously the Champions League, of course, will help with extra revenue. If you win a game, I think you get something like 2 million. I think it's over 750k if you draw the game. So the incentive is there to go and attack. You've obviously got your people come through the gates. So there's more money coming into Newcastle, which is brilliant. And again, that's the fucking mint job that Eddie Howe has done for Newcastle United, and the ownership as well. It's not just Eddie Howe. The ownership deserve a heck of a lot of praise for the way they've come in. Yes, there's probably do you know what it is? I would have been a lot more happy if Mike Ashley had gone and then someone just communicated with us. But because we've got the PIF who are literally just rich as out, and obviously we have the richest owners, but the key thing to remember is we don't have the richest club. That's what a lot of people get confused with. We don't have the richest club. We don't have the most valuable club. I think we've moved up to 20th, if I'm not mistaken. So it's still a long way to go to get in that top 5, which what they'll want, without a shadow of a doubt, to grow the brand. So yeah, it's good times at the minute. But we can't go and splash 80 million, 90 million on a Ukraine winger who's never played outside of Ukraine. We can't do that. Our money has to be spent a little bit more strategic, where we might have to buy a £40 million winger and then maybe a 30 million pound midfielder to get a 70 million, and maybe sell one or two because, you know, you've still got Isaac Hayden who need out the door. Jeff Hendrick still has another year left in his deal. We need rid of players who are sitting, Ryan Fraser sitting around. So it's a difficult one, isn't it? I'm going to see what you're saying about this as well. Jordy says, I can't wait for the USA tour, Norfolk, Virginia. Mags, I'll see you out there. No doubt that'll be a fantastic week. Lewis has gone out and said Lewis Smiley can play both teams in the Champions League. What an experience it'll be for him being a local lad playing in the Champions League for his boyhood club. I think it'll also mean a lot for people like Dan Byrne and Sean Longstaff. I really, really do. I think it's just class that Geordies are in there, which is just mint, man. It's for a young lad to play Champions League football, a local lad, which will be fantastic as well. David O'Neill has just become a member. Welcome to the membership, David. It's only 99 pence, absolute bargain. You see loads of videos, recaps, and what's coming up on Johnny's and Sam's weekly podcast. Speaking of Mr. Johnny Greenwood, there he is. Speak of the devil. Messi on loan to Newcastle when his MLS finishes. Well, the season finishes in November, doesn't it? And starts in March, so maybe we can pinch him a couple of months. Who knows? To be honest, JB says that he's not too bothered about who is the betting sponsor. I'm happy it's no longer a below market value shirt deal. And obviously Boyle Sports, I think their deal's up as well. So they've been good to us as well. Boyle Sports, I must say that as well. The last clip we've got, which is around transfers and how they happen at the club. This is interesting.
Quite a detailed procedure. So first of all, we have amazing executives in the club. They'll outline weaknesses or strengths or things we need to work on and things we need to add. And then they'll provide a list of possible recruitment candidates in different positions. And then as a board, we'll take a decision to strengthen X amount in X areas this year. You don't have to totally revamp your squad every year. The idea is to bring some key players and continue to improve your team, but also to improve the players you have as well, which our coach has done fantastically. Yeah. So it's quite a strategic procedure, and a lot of things on data science and a lot of data behind not only players you're looking at, but also what your team is doing at the moment. So the footballing team will have detailed conversations before it gets to the board about which areas they think they can strengthen, possible targets they like, and that will all be backed up by the data. Actually, our chairman of the team, Yas, is probably the most data-driven individual you've ever met. Really is instilled into this club a discipline of getting all the facts and all the data first, and I've learned a lot from that. And so we see an incredible amount of data, more than I've ever seen in any other business, but it's something we put first. And I think that is something that can potentially give us an edge. And I think it's very important. Data gets you so far. The character of the player has to fit into the dynamic of the dressing room. Eddie Howe's very particular about the type of player he brings in. They must fight for the team. They must be a team player. And so we have a bunch of amazing characters, and that really helps us. They work tirelessly, they give everything on the pitch, and they love the city and they love the club. And so data is so important, but also the character of the individual as well. Yeah. You don't want to upset the dressing room. You don't want to change the dynamic. So you have to be very particular about the character you bring in. That's something I've learned as well, and something I really respect and appreciate now.
It's interesting, isn't it? Very interesting what he's just said there about it. Three things I want to say about that. First of all, the personnel who comes in, I think that's important. I think Rafa Benitez was quite big on that. If you remember, Rafa wouldn't necessarily bring in a troublemaker, you're the right character for the squad. Rafa's big on that and very detailed, wasn't he? And Eddie Howe is as well. So, you know, you're not going to have a Neymar coming into St. James's Park anytime soon because of his personality and because effectively we can't afford him. Even though we've got bags and bags of riches, we're just not allowed to spend it because of our owners and the financial fair play, easy for me to say. So the right personality. So if Newcastle are going to bring in, I don't know, a striker for competition, it needs to be the right personality for that as well. Also, the second thing is when he says the footballing team. So that's obviously, you know, that's the mixture. When he talks about the execs, that's like Darren Eales. You've also got the sporting director as well, Mr. Dan Ashworth. So they'll come up with a strategy and say, right, okay, and Eddie obviously will be in meetings and stuff as well. They'll go to the board and present, look, we need, I don't know, a left back or right back or whatever. And they might have a few options that are listed there, and the reasons being, look at and heavily driven by data, which was interesting, isn't it? Because if there's if they're heavily driven by data and a certain player is good at set midfield and they're looking for a long range passer, Go and get John Joe Shelby. Jokes aside, because he's got nothing for us. But it's interesting. So if they look at someone who is, you might see, who should we give? Harry Kane might score a 1 and 3. Whereas somebody else might score less goals but have more shots on target or more running or pace out of 2 out of 3 or something like that. They'll go for that option instead. I'm not saying Harry Kane, by the way. I'm just giving you an alternative, how they look at it. So they're very, very data-driven, which is very intriguing, I think. It's a good insight into the mind of how they think and how they approach and everything like that. So let's have a look at your comments, what you're saying as well. Let's have a little look. Can we get a meow? I've got no idea what that is about. Lewis has gone on to say, I'm not liking the new way they are going to do a new season ticket. I'm an additional. I want a proper season ticket to come through the post, not on your phone. Yes, we did a video on this, didn't we? When I was in the Pennines, we're all going. It looks like we're all going digital. I'm not against it, but not everybody's going to know how to work them. I think that'll be the struggle, first of all, because I've got Google Pay and it goes in your wallet. I only found that out after I just put the video out about an hour, that you can actually save and you can scan it without needing data or Wi-Fi. I didn't know that, but how many people are going to know that, especially the elder generation? I think it's also, it stops like ticket abuse where someone's getting in who's paying for a child's ticket, for example. Also, if you're trying to sell your ticket, if you can't get an away game, but you've sold your ticket, because I imagine it'll eventually come in for away games as well. So we'll see. We'll have to see on that. I like especially the away tickets. I collect my away tickets personally. So if that goes, that'll be, some people collect home ones. So if you don't go to many home games and you're going to a Newcastle game and you're buzzing for it and you're excited for it, you want to keep that ticket. Or if it's a certain match where Newcastle have done incredibly well, like say we drew with Leicester and we qualify for the Champions League, it's a memory of that ticket. That was the night we qualify for the Champions League. So there's more to it than just a paper ticket. There's a memory and a moment behind it, because it could also be things like you've gone with someone like your granddad or your dad, or your granddad might have passed away, and that them paper tickets mean everything to you because it's a piece of your granddad and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? I get it. I do get it why they're going digital. But I also do get why they're trying to go digital as well. Graham has gone out and said, I have a disabled ticket and carer's ticket. My carer changes each game. How will that work? I think you should be all fine, Graham. If you're a little bit unsure, what I'd recommend you doing is just give the box office a little ring just to ask that question. But I would imagine if you can put 2 tickets into your wallet, into your Google Play or your Apple, I think that should be all right. I think. I may be wrong on that. You'll have to ask the team at the box office. I think Howe is a system manager, says Sean. Regardless of who we're linked to, it looks like we're progressive passes and ball pressure seem to be key stats. Yes, I do agree. And high pressing as well, which Steve Bruce didn't do. We attack from the front. We defend from the front, sorry. That's what I was meant to say, Lee. That's what I was meant to say. Eddie Howe will now spend his summer pulling all the data for all the best clubs in the world. Well, you said Europe, but I'll say world as well. But yeah, that is practically it. Everybody, if you can drop us, what everyone think about when news strips is Nate. If it is to be the correct one, that's all I will say. I actually quite like it. I always think the sponsor should be black and white anyways, because it looks nice. I don't like the funny not for me. Not for me. But yes, that is it, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed the mess around that I've been playing around with, different screens and audio and banners and stuff at the bottom, and interacting with you today. So yeah, drop us a like if you can do. If you want to join our membership, fantastic. And we've got videos on the horizon, left, right, and centre. We've got Sam a day. I think Johnny's doing one tomorrow, I think. And then I might do one coming towards into the weekend as well. But yeah, that's it, everyone. Have a lovely night, whatever you're up to. Ta-da.